Thank you for reminding me. I am going to start the recording right now. Okay, so we have amongst us Kaishori Sindhu Prabhu. She was born to a family. In fact, she said that she was 7 years old when her parents were introduced to Krishna consciousness. So she's been practicing Krishna consciousness since almost like birth. And she was introduced to devotees in Australia. Her parents and her are disciples of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami. She took to the practice of Ayurveda. I think she attended a seminar, which was really inspiring, and she dedicated she in fact went to college, right, in Australia, Keshori?
Yeah.
For health and nutrition. And now she lives in the UK. She got married. She moved to UK 3 years back. I've been following her posts on Instagram. Maybe she can talk to us about her website, and if any of you want to get in touch with her later. So I'm going to turn this over to Kaishori Sindhu Prabhu. Thank you so much for joining us. And you are a co-host, so you can share your screen if you need to.
And how long do I have?
We have 2 hours.
Okay.
So if you want to keep it interactive, we're fine with that. If you want to take questions in the middle, however you want to lead the session. We like to keep it a little informal so people feel comfortable to share. But all of this is recorded.
Perfect.
So, yeah, thank you.
So thank you very much, Govinda Priya Prabhu, Tiffany Prabhu, for asking me to speak here. I've never been in a... do you mind if I do gallery view just so I like to see who I'm talking
sure.
to? Right.
You can do gallery view.
I can do that? Okay.
Yes.
I don't want to see my own face. Yeah, I've never really done a talk to a devotee audience before. Mainly I do talks to people that don't really know about Krishna consciousness, but they are more interested in Ayurveda and yoga, and I guess living a holistic life. So before we begin, we'll just chant a little bit of invocation mantras, Mangala Charanam. If you know, please do join along. Yeah, let's go for it. Om Agyanantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Panchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuba Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Namami Dhanvantari Madi Devam Surasurairvandita Pada Padmam Loke Jararabhraya Mrityunasham Tataramesham Vividhoshadinam. So thank you everyone for joining on today. And yeah, I'd like to keep this as interactive as possible. So while I'm going through and sharing a little bit about Ayurveda, if you have any questions, please do ask. However, I do request you please, if they are personal medical questions pertaining to yourself, and it's a very specific thing, I won't be able to answer it in this setting. Also, I need a lot more information than just one question to really assess what's going on. So it becomes a little bit difficult if people start to ask about personal medical questions. But if it's something that you think someone else in the group may be going through and it's quite a generic question, then yes, please feel free to ask. So I'm going to share my screen. Please excuse my PowerPoint and my lack of digital or creative, what's the word? Lack of creativity. I'm not very technological, but I'm going to do my best to share with you some things about Ayurveda. So Ayurveda is the oldest medicine system in the world. It's dated back 5,000 years ago, and that's in written form. But as we know, many of the Vedas were passed down in oral tradition before that. It comes from the Atharva Veda. And Ayurveda is a complete science and a way of living. It's literally, it means the science of life. Now, there are different authors of different Ayurvedic texts. So you may have heard of Charaka. He is one of the original authors, and many people say he's actually, it's a group of sages together. There's Charaka Samhita. That's one of the Ayurvedic texts. There's a Shushruta Samhita, which is more about surgery and surgical instruments. So it was really fascinating to me that Ayurveda actually has everything needed to make perfect and precise surgical instruments. So it's not just about what herb to take and what not to take, but Ayurveda was developed at a time when there were Kshatriyas going to warfare. And so battle wounds needed to be healed. And for that, Shushruta had invented plastic surgery. And then one of the more recent reorganizations of the Ayurvedic text was done by someone called Vagbhata. And he reorganized and categorized the text in something called Ashtanga Hridaya and Ashtanga Sangraha. And one of my teachers in India, he really nicely said that the Ashtanga Hridaya means heart. So it's basically the essence of everything that's written in Ayurveda. And he said, the Ashtanga Hridaya is organized in such a nice way that if you follow the first 4 chapters, which is about daily conduct, how to live, how to conduct yourself in, I guess, emotional, behavioral sense, what a daily routine should look like, what a seasonal routine should look like, then you don't really need the rest of the book, which is all about diseases and how to treat them. Because you'll be living in such a way that you won't be inviting disease in your life. So I thought that was so nice and so simple. And for me, what really drew me to Ayurveda, because I studied a background of Western nutrition, was its simplicity. That, you know, in Western nutrition, you have to learn vitamin A, B, C, D, how much of each to take, when to take it, who should take how much. Some people should take more, some people shouldn't take that much. And it was a lot of detail to remember. Whereas Ayurveda, much like the Vedas, it teaches you the basic principles, the foundational principles. And upon understanding them, then you can apply them in many different parts of your life. So Ayurveda, it talks about the 5 element theory, which I'm sure we all know about. The 5 elements being earth, water, fire, air, and ether. And then these are reorganized into the 3 doshas. And this is what sort of has popularized Ayurveda in today's modern world. Everyone wants to know, what's my dosha? Who am I? Am I Vata? Am I Pitta? Am I Kapha? So I'm going to take you a little bit into each of those 3 doshas, try to understand them, and to help you look out for them, not just in your body, in your mind, but also everywhere around you. So dosha, literally, it means fault or impurity or mistake. If you know Hindi or Sanskrit, dosh means to fault someone, like, you know, to find a fault in someone. So when you look at the word dosha like that, it doesn't really make sense. Why are we looking for faults? But in an Ayurvedic sense, when our doshas, when these 3 reorganizations of Vata, Pitta, Kapha, so I'll go back again to this slide. So Vata is a combination of air and ether. Yes. Pitta is a combination of fire and water. And Kapha is a combination of earth and water. So now when these doshas are in balance, they're healthy, then you have good health, because they don't disrupt anything in the body. When they go out of balance, they disturb the bodily tissues in a variety of ways, and that's when you get ill health. So now when people are talking about what's my dosha, we all have our unique set of, a unique balance of doshas, which is known as our prakriti. And this happens to, this is determined by a few factors, which I will tell you 1 second. It's mainly a lot of in utero factors. Sorry. Aha, got it. So it's factors that determine our prakriti, that determine the unique constitution that we're born with, is the quality of sperm and the ovum at conception. It is the quality and type of food consumed by the mother during pregnancy. It is the conditions inside the uterus during pregnancy and its effect of the seasons. So now all of these things, they work together to come out with, we can almost like it to our DNA, right? It's not exact, I won't say exactly it's our DNA, but it's like our DNA. Just like each one of us has a unique fingerprint, each one of us has a unique prakriti, a unique balance of the doshas. And no one of the doshas, vata is not better than pitta, is not better than kapha. Each of them have their strengths when they're in balance, and each of them have their weaknesses when they're out of balance. Now, unfortunately, we don't live a perfect life. We all know in this material world, there is no such thing as a perfect life. And as we go through life, we become imbalanced because of an incorrect relationship with our environment or with nature. And this results in vikriti, or in an imbalanced state. So oftentimes when people fill out dosha questionnaires, you know, to tick to see whether they're more vata, pitta or kapha, it can be quite confusing because you can answer it according to how you're feeling right now. And most of the time, how we're feeling right now won't be our prakriti, won't be the true manifestation of ourselves. It will be an imbalanced state because of certain things that have happened in our life. So if you ever are doing a dosha questionnaire and they are not a bad place to start to try and figure out what you are, it's a good indication to give yourself. What I will suggest is do it twice. First time when you do the dosha questionnaire, do it thinking back to a time in your life when you were really healthy and really happy. Healthy in a physical sense, healthy in a mental sense, healthy in an emotional, behavioral, all of those aspects of your body were healthy and happy. And then do it at a time, do it how you're feeling right now. And then when you sort of put the two together, you can see according to your natural constitution, this is what you should be like. This is what I'm like when I'm healthy, when I'm happy. And this is what I'm like now. And you can kind of see, okay, what are the bits of me that are going out of balance? And another really, really important thing to understand is doshas are not just in us, they're all around us, right? And I'm going to explain to you how. Okay, so I want to try and help you guys to use the tools of Ayurveda in this session going forward as well. So how to recognize vata. Each of these three doshas are described by a certain set of qualities. And these qualities are right there in front of you. They're pretty simple, right? They're very simple describing words, verbs, adjectives, as we would call them in like primary school grammar or English. So anything that is vata is very dry, is light, is cold, is rough, it's subtle. So it might not be very obvious. It's just kind of under the radar, and it's mobile or erratic. You know, vatas have a very erratic nature. For example, I can be talking to you here, have my full attention here on this Zoom conference. Someone can be walking into the room and I suddenly like switch my head and I look at them because my ears, you know, caught their conversation. So vatas are very flickering. 1 second they can be giving you their full attention. The next second they're somewhere else. In the same way, inside our body, a vata digestion or a vata appetite is very variable or erratic. So someone who might have a predominant vata digestion They could be feeling super duper hungry 1 second, and then they'll, have a big bowl of prashadam in front of them. They'll eat just a few bitefuls, and then they're like, oh, I feel full. I don't need any more. And then maybe 2 hours later, they need to eat again. They're super duper hungry. So there's that very mobile and erratic nature in vata. Even something to do with vata bowel movements, vata digestion. They can alternate between constipation and diarrhea. There's no telling. They have no real pattern. It's very erratic and a mobile nature. So vata, what does it do inside the body? If you think of these two elements of air and ether, they're very light elements. They're not very tangible. You can't really put your finger onto them. So vata is that airy quality. It governs all movement, all communication and transport in the body, right? Me moving, running, that's vata in play. It governs respiration. We can see in respiration, there is a very obvious movement of air inside the body, oxygen in the body, carbon dioxide out of the body. Circulation, things moving all over the body, whether it's the blood circulating, whether it's the lymphatic system, all of this is governed by vata. Elimination, bowel movements happening every morning. This is when vata is heightened. When women menstruate every month, vata is heightened. When women give birth, this is a massive, massive derangement of vata. You imagine, for 9 months, a woman has carried a child in her womb. And then depending on how long your labor is, in a matter of, could be minutes, in a matter of hours, that space is now gone, right? Because that child has come out of your body. And something has to rush in to fill that space. And if you don't look after yourself properly, and if lots of air rushes in and fills that space, it's very common for women to get lower back pain as soon as they've had children, after childbirth. And so you see at certain times in your life, vata will be naturally heightened. Any cardiac activity, any neurological activity, all of these things are governed by vata. So inside the body, vata is seated in the lower half of your body. So sort of from your colon down to your legs. Let me tell you exactly where. Yeah, vata zone. It is, colon and down to your legs is kind of like the vata zone of the body. And then you'll get different parts of the body which have different predominating doshas, behaviorally or emotionally. So I'm going to talk about the vata characteristics, both when they're in balance and then also when it's out of balance. So then you can try and understand. You might know that, oh, this is like me, I'm characteristically vata. Or you might know a family member or a friend or someone, and I'm saying all of these things and you're like, yeah, that's definitely them. So keep these in mind, and it will help you to understand different people. It's really also, Ayurveda is a great tool at helping you put certain people into roles like a service related role or even for a job, because we all know that everyone isn't suited to every job or everyone isn't suited to every service. So once you understand your nature, not just the nature as we are told, as Prabhupada explains in the Gita, but also your constitution, your prakriti, you can better function and live in the world, have better relationships, have better health. Even if you're a mother and you have children, you can start to recognize these characteristics in your children. And you will soon start to see that all your children are not the same. They'll be quite different to each other. So a vata person in balance in their behavior and in their emotion, they like to do everything fast, right? There's a meme on the internet that says, I have 17 tabs open in my internet browser and I have no idea where the music is coming from. Anybody have that happen to them? Right? All the time. I have like 10 tabs open, but I need all of them right now. Yeah. It's not like I can close any of them. They're all important. So vatas, their mind is like that. They do everything fast. They walk fast, they talk fast, they eat fast. Everything is fast. It's very difficult to keep up with them. In a behavioral, in emotional sense, they're very creative people. They don't like being bound by the rules and regulations of society. They're the free-spirited people, right? They like following alternative paths. the artists of society, good musicians, good anyone that comes up with, you know, with really creative things, they've got a lot of vata in them. I can think like Janavi Harrison, very clear example of a vata, right? Very excellent singing musician. Also, her artwork is incredible. She's got that creative energy in her. They can, what else about vata? When they're out of balance, when they are, you know, not grounded, they always resort with fear. They always resort with anxiety and worry. You know, why me? You know, why? What if this happens? What if that happens? A lot of insecurity. So that is Vata's go-to mechanism when things start to go a bit haywire. They start to become closed off and always questioning, worrying, just being insecure and anxious. I'm just going to see, how can I see if anyone has questions?
So they can put their questions in the chat.
And I can still see that if I've got screen share on?
Yes. So if you, you know, hover your mouse, or sometimes I see that someone has their hand raised. So we can call upon them and they can unmute themselves if that's...
Yeah, if you don't mind, Prabhu, just to like keep an eye on the questions. And if someone is asking...
Do you want to take questions now?
If it's to do with this, then yeah, sure.
Okay. Athena, is this question related to what she's talking about right now? You can unmute yourself.
Oh, yes. Hello. I'm not sure if you're able to see me. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for your time. And already this is a wonderful presentation. Yes, my question is related, but it might go into also, I have a little familiarity of the doshas, but I was curious, and not to, for example, when you brought up Genevieve Harrison, she has a very Vata mind, you might say, because she's very creative, she has the music, but from what I know, she's maybe a Vata mind, but perhaps maybe Pitta or Kapha body. So when you identify someone, do you identify them as, say, Vata based on the mind, or really kind of the physical aspect? So would you say she's a Vata because she's so creative, or she's a Vata Kapha, or you would say she's actually Kapha because she's very grounded and loving and nurturing, and maybe she's a little bigger bone, you know, something like that? How do you, when you say someone is Vata, Pitta, Kapha, is it based on the mind? Is it based on the body? What is it based off of? Thanks.
Very, very good question. And you kind of answered it. So I would say she's got a Vata mind, and then also go on to describe her body. And she's a very general example because, I mean, I don't know her that well. I don't know her personally. I don't know. We just see the outward Jahnavi, right? Inside what's going on in her mind, I don't know. So you can get a lot more out of people once you, I guess, you know, you properly talk to them. And when I personally am to categorize someone, I'll always try and say Vata, mind, Pitta, body, like that, rather than just say you're a Vata and that relates to every single aspect of you. Because another thing in the Prakriti, you will not be just one dosha completely. I'll never meet anyone that says, yes, I'm purely Vata, I'm purely Pitta, I'm purely Kapha. Everyone will be a mix in their mind, body, behavior, and yeah. So hopefully that answers it.
Great, thank you. So in essence, you could separate that you're, say you would be Vata Pitta, Vata mind, Pitta body, versus just identify one whole based on, say, the mental aspect and the physical aspect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So we have another question. Amin, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Oh, I think...
Hi, thank you so much. This is so wonderful. I have a question. What she asked the question about the mind and body. So how do you decide the food, activity, and do you go by...
We'll get to that.
Mind?
We'll get to that.
Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so this is I guess these are a few of the characteristics. Now I can speak for like 2 hours on each particular dosha. So there's a lot within them, but I want you to sort of understand what I really want you to try and remember is those qualities that are there on the left side, right? You think about these qualities, not just in a physical sense, but also in a tangible sense. I'll try and explain them. Now, what you asked before, what should a person eat? Another very fundamental principle of Ayurveda is like increases like, right? So if I'm already Vata, if I already have an excess of these qualities of being dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, if I do the same, if I eat foods of the same nature, if I live a life of the same nature, if I associate with people who are of a similar nature, the Vata is just going to increase, right? And I'm already heightened Vata. I want to try and balance it out. So do the opposite. So if you notice that in myself, in my body, in my mind, somewhere I have an excess of Vata, try and do the opposite. What does that mean? Okay, very simply, don't eat dry foods, right? Don't eat light foods, don't eat cold foods. Don't have too many salads. Don't have dry crackers. Don't have, what else? Too much Indian fried snacks like churro and chakri and things like that.
Dry cereal and granola and all those things.
Dry cereal and granola, perfect. Chips, breads, crisps, things like that. Don't have these things. Focus on the opposite quality. So what's the opposite of dry? Someone can yell out.
Moist and warm food.
Moist and warm, right? It's so easy when you look at it like that. What's the opposite of light? Heavy. Instead of eating salads, eat cooked vegetables. Eat steamed, eat boiled, eat roasted vegetables. Instead of cold foods, have hot or warm foods, right? Temperature-wise. Instead of rough foods. So instead of, like, salad is considered roughage inside the body. It's quite, fibrous. Have something that's a bit more smooth, unctuous, slips down your body. Instead of doing things that are very erratic, have routine, be grounded, do things that are sort of stable and routine every single day. So when you are asked to, when you feel inside of you, okay, at certain times of the day, at certain times in your life, you may feel that my Vata is increasing, right? Definitely before I was going to give this presentation, I felt a little bit nervous. My Vata is starting to increase. So I shouldn't be like running around frantically trying to figure things out last minute. Okay, let me just sit down. What do I already know? What can I talk about? And process it in that way. I'm not going to go through specific foods because that might take a bit of time. What I can do is point you in the direction of certain websites that will have foods that are good for Vata, good for Pitta, and good for Kapha. So then from there, you'll get, I guess, a better understanding. So we talked a little bit about the behavior and the emotion of Vata. Also physically, in a Vata person, they will tend to be quite skinny. They are the type of people that can eat, and they won't put on weight. They're very fine and slim boned. Maybe they have quite fine hair, not much hair. And you'll see in the erratic nature of Vata. So when I read some of the textbooks, it'll explain so many different qualities of a person's physique according to Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. Pitta and Kapha will be quite specific. Pitta have sharp, penetrating eyes. Kapha have large, doe-like eyes. But Vata eyes, they're either far apart or close together, right? So it's erratic. There is no certain characteristic, even sometimes within the physique of a person. They'll tend to always feel cold on the extremities. Circulation is poor in Vata. Lips are thin. You'll find they're quite a bony person. In their digestion, like I mentioned, it can be quite erratic, but they always tend towards constipation. Constipation, by the way, means moving your bowels less than 1 time a day. So if you don't move your bowels at least 1 time a day, this is something that you should address. And I'm going to be very candid and open because bowel movements are one of my favorite topics to talk about because we don't talk about it often enough. It is a very crucial point of your good health. If you don't correct it when it starts to go sort of haywire at the beginning, it can lead to a lot of complications later down the track. So that's something about Vata.
We have another question, if I may
Yes.
ask at this point. Which Madhavi Manchari is asking, which season aggravates Vata?
Okay, good question. So I'm going to put that question to you guys. If you think of these qualities, dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile, what season is best ascribed to these?
Winter.
Winter.
Take a step back from winter.
Is it summer?
Fall.
Fall or autumn in England. So autumn, you think about it, everything's drying. Leaves are falling off the trees. They're becoming drier. We are experiencing dryness inside the body, dry skin, maybe a bit more constipation. It's starting to get cold, light. The wind is quite rough on the body. I know in England, autumn can be quite erratic in terms of it can be raining. I mean, it's raining pretty much every day, but sometimes it's quite warm. Sometimes it can be cool. You know, the weather hasn't yet made up its mind that am I in winter or am I not? So this transition phase, autumn or fall, is a very characteristic Vata season. Then I've got stage of life. So if we were to divide life span into 3 stages, so your childhood, so I would say from birth to about 20s, and then 20s to 50s, 60s, and then 50s, 60s to death, right, to old age. So Vata is prominent in the later part of your life. When you're, say, 50, 60 onwards, that is the Vata season of life. And you see what are the most common sort of disorders associated with the elderly, right? Osteoporosis, that is low density of the bones, more air in the body, things like dry skin, right? You know, my grandmother's skin will always be super dry. Even mental disorders, dementia, Alzheimer's, that is Vata in the mind, right? You've got a massive air derangement happening in the mind. So you can see it is already, the Vata is already heightened at that time. Don't do things that are going to increase it even more. So it's very important for those in the latter part of their life to not follow a dry, light, cold, rough, subtle, mobile diet or lifestyle, right? They need to do completely the opposite. They need to have more warm and moist foods. They need to start increasing oleation or self-massage or massage by someone else into their life on a regular basis. They need to make sure they're keeping warm. And think also in terms of, you know, their company. Vata's like doing everything. Sometimes, especially as women, we don't like to accept help, right? We think, yeah, I can do it. I've been looking after my family. Let me do, let me give. But it's really, really important that in the later stage of our life, we are okay to receive. Just, when was it? Last week, we were, I run a girls' Sangha in England, and we're covering Sri Ishopanishad, and I was listening to Chaitanya Charan Prabhu's classes, and he was mentioning how Indradimna Swami, he accompanied His Holiness Sridhar Maharaj from London to Mayapur to leave his body. And actually, before Sridhar Maharaj was going to go to Mayapur, he told Indradimna Swami that, no, I'm going to go to Mumbai to be with my disciples, to, you know, so I can just give service. And Indradimna Swami, he told Sridhar Maharaj that, Maharaj, you've given your whole life in service. Now is your time to turn inwards and to focus on leaving your body and to focus on going back to Krishna. So Indradimna Maharaj encouraged him, said, no, don't worry. Your disciples will be looked after. You come and prepare, and you come to Mayapur. So in the same sense, we should be ready that, you know, we've fulfilled all our responsibilities. We've done our service. Now let us focus on ourselves, both in terms of, yes, our spiritual life, but also our health. Because if we don't have good health, we can't have good spiritual life. So I really urge all the women, all the Prabhis, the Vaishnavis out here, that I'm really honored that you've taken this time out to like learn a bit more about your health. And yeah, please do take it forward as you get older and enter that Vata stage of life. And I think we've got another question. Can food and activities then reduce mental disorders like dementia in elderly people? They can, but it won't be a complete treatment. Even in Ayurveda, many of the diseases, they will have treatments, and they will also have that these diseases are not curable. And sometimes it's progressed to quite a late stage that it's beyond repair. But you can do things to manage their the comfort in their day-to-day living. So eating vata, pacifying foods, head massage, incorporating certain herbs, oil massage on the body, they can reduce, I guess, maybe the effects of dementia and mental disorders. It's not going to completely take it away. So that's a little bit about vata. And like I said, it's a very little bit about vata. So we'll move on to pitta. In the same way that we had a set of characteristics to recognize vata, we have a set of characteristics to recognize pitta. So they are slightly oily, penetrating, hot, light, spreading, liquefaction, and a sour smell, right? So these qualities can be present, like I said, inside of us, but also all around us. What does it do inside the body? Pitta is that fiery dosha, that fiery energy. It governs digestion, all hormonal activity, enzyme activity in the body. Now, a lot of us, when we think to digestion, we just think to our digestive system in the stomach. It's really important that we understand digestion is not just about the food that we take in or the prasadam that we take in. Digestion is also about what we take in from our other four senses, right? Sometimes we fail to think about that. We also see things, we hear things, we smell things, and we touch things, or we experience touch. How are we processing that? It's very, very important that we do it in a healthy way, that whatever we see, if we heard something that didn't sit well with us, process it. Don't just shove it under the carpet. Whether it's through talking about it with someone that you can confide in, someone you feel comfortable enough with, whether it's through journaling it, but make sure you don't just see digestion as what you put in through your mouth, but what you also take in through your other four senses. Any conversion process. So the fact that I'm seeing this computer screen, my eyes are converting it into information that my brain is taking on, that's pitta. Heat regulation in the body is governed by pitta. Hunger, thirst, all of these are governed by pitta. Pitta also has a big part to do with our skin and our luster. Understanding, intelligence, courage, all of these are some of the qualities of pitta. It sits sort of in the mid, let me just confirm. Yeah, middle of the body. Sites of the pitta. Small intestine, liver, pancreas, gallbladder, spleen. I see another question. Does one develop diseases because of imbalances for too long without addressing it? Yes, definitely. When Ayurveda has a really good I guess system or mechanism of trying to recognize when disease is starting. Unfortunately, according to Western medicine, that disease process only starts when you go to the doctor, you get tested for something, you get a blood result, you get an x-ray, and it's kind of written for you, and it says, oh, your cholesterol is high, therefore now you've got a condition, it's got a name, and that is when you have disease according to the Western model. But in Ayurveda, when your digestion is impaired, when you have an excess formation of toxins or ama in the body and it starts to overflow and go to different areas, that's when disease or imbalance occurs. And if it's not corrected at that point, it can go on, like you mentioned in the question, to even more serious diseases later on in life. So it's really important that you learn to be a little bit intuitive about your body. And when you feel like something is not right, that something is not right is your body telling you to fix it now. Don't wait till later on and go to the doctor 2 months later, but try and figure out, okay, what is that something is not right? And let me try and address that. Pitta in the behavior or emotion of a person. Now, Pitta is that really fiery element, right? So someone who is very strong, an entrepreneur, a very good public speaker, politicians are great examples of Pittas, very good businessmen, the people that are real like go-getters. They have a Pitta predominance in their behavior and in their emotions. When Pitta goes out of balance, when too much heat is in the body, what do you think Pittas resort to emotionally or behaviorally?
Anger.
Anger. Very, very good. So when Pittas get too hot, they can get very angry, quick to blame, quick to criticize, not necessarily even criticize other people. There can be self-blame, self-criticism as well. What else about Pitta? Yeah, they're quite sharp with their words. They won't beat around the bush. They will just tell you what needs to be told. And, you know, they're not really good with the hi, hello, how are you sort of niceties. In the season, what do you think is a very characteristic Pitta season?
Summer.
Summer, very good. You think hot, summer. So don't do hot things in summer. Don't eat hot foods in summer. And you can see the changes in what you get available around you. There'll be a lot more fresh fruits. There'll be a lot more salads in summer. And even for example, for a person with a Vata digestion, it might be okay in summer to have a salad, you know, to have it at a specific time because their body is able to handle it. What I also want you to understand is that just because you might be predominantly Vata, you might be predominantly Pitta or Kapha, don't think that I only should eat Vata foods or I only should eat Pitta foods, right? Listen to your body on a daily basis and see what suits you and what suits your digestion. I studied, my first bit of study in Ayurveda was for 3 months in India at like a traditional hospital. And I sat with a teacher every day from like 10 to 5, and we kind of went through the texts. And at the end of those 3 months, another doctor, he came and asked me, and he said, okay, so what did you learn in those 3 months? And I was like, oh, how am I going to explain to you 3 months of study worth in a conversation? And I started to scratch my head and I said, I learned about the doshas, I learned about the 6 tastes. And he said, no, stop. He said, if you were to meet someone on the street that had no knowledge of Ayurveda, what would you tell them? And I was a bit stuck. I said, I don't know. And he said, you learned 3 things. He said, number 1, know your digestion, right? Once you know your digestion, you know what works for you. What works for you may not work for someone else, which is also why I'm not a big fan of fad diets. You know, celery juice diet, paleo diet, ketogenic diet, things like this. It may have worked for a few people, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. So if you see some health fad or something, try it first. And if it doesn't suit you, don't follow it, right? The second thing he said is everything in moderation, right? Don't go extremes. Sometimes people go like, I'm going to do, my spiritual master, Indradimna Swami, he used to do this fire water diet. He used to survive 40 days on this water made of water, I think apple cider vinegar, maple syrup, cayenne pepper. And that's all he used to drink for 40 days. That is not good for your body, right? That is not living in moderation. And then the third thing he said is nothing in this world is universally good or universally bad. And we like to do that these days, especially in the modern health media, is really idolize a particular ingredient, right? It might be chia seeds. And for a couple of months, you'll see chia seeds everywhere. Might be avocado oil, avocado seeds, like this, you know, superfood. But there is such a thing as too much avocado. There is such a thing as too much chia seeds. So nothing in this world is universally good or universally bad. In the same way, everything can be used as food, medicine, or poison. So understand that also. So when you look at Ayurveda, I know I'm giving you a lot of information today. In India, it's a 6-year degree to become an Ayurvedic doctor. But just even if you take a couple of things from today, don't overcomplicate it. As Srila Prabhupada said, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple-minded and complicated for the complicated-minded. So try not to make Ayurveda complicated. Just keep it simple and what resonates with you. I saw another question come up. Yes.
We have a couple questions here.
Okay.
Do
Harry
you want me
God
to read them
sister,
for you?
is it possible to cure allergies through food as well? Allergies through food, you have to look at digestion first. Digestion is where all Ayurvedic physicians, doctors, practitioners will look to and address first before addressing any other health issue. So again, allergies is a little bit more complex, but it all depends on the digestion of that person.
Vaishnavi Sanga Prabhu, I think you've missed a question.
Oh, sorry.
Follow up, just the one before Athena's question. Can you see?
Was it a long one?
Yes.
I think I addressed that just before.
Okay.
I started talking about pitta.
All right.
But yeah, but sorry, I might go from here and there all over the place a bit. So if I'm not making sense, or if you need clarification, please do put your hand up and let me know. Where were we? The three things. So yes, behaviorally, emotionally, we talked about pitta. Stage of life, which if we say vata is the latter stage of life, and that we've got 2 stages left, childhood and sort of your 20s to 50s, which stage do you think would be pitta?
20s to 50s.
Why would you say that?
You know, that's when I see most aggregated acne and, you know, all those kind of pitta related ailments show up.
Yes, correct. Absolutely correct. And also, if you think about what pitta does in the body, it's all about transformation. It's all about digestion. 20s to 50s is when we are achieving things in life, right? You get married, then you have children, then you build your career, then in terms of service, that's because you're able-bodied. That's when you do your most. You know, you give your most for the movement in that part of life. Everyone again has a different scenario, but that's the time of life when it's constant achievement, go. You know, you run on overdrive. And in seasons, we talked about summer. Any other questions for pitta so far? I saw one question come up. You can read it out, I think.
Sure. So, well, this is, you know, I think very specific question, but I'll read it out and you can address it the way you want to. My daughter is only 11 years old. She's in the border of hypothyroidism. What can I do at home to cure thyroid?
Again, yeah, that's a very personal question. I would need more time and
More
to know what your daughter eats, to know how she lives, to then give advice accordingly.
Sure.
So now we're on to kapha, right? The dosha that is a combination of water and earth, and it is characterized by the qualities of being heavy, cold, soft, oily, sweet, steady, and sticky, right? What does it do inside the body? It governs everything to do with structure, stability, lubrication of the membranes, all that fluid around our joints, synovial fluid, mucus in our lungs, mucus that acts as a protective barrier, as a defense system. That is kapha. Our endurance, our strength, you know, that heaviness in that, that steadiness in those 2 qualities of kapha, it's a very enduring quality. Like I mentioned that vata, physique, they were quite skinny and they had difficulty putting on weight. Pitta are quite medium framed, right? Not too big, not too large. Kapha, they're on the larger side, right? They're the types of people that they can just see prasadam and put on weight. They don't even need to eat it. If you have to ascribe an animal to a particular dosha, you can say Vata is like a flamingo, right? Tall, skinny, walking around. Pitta is like a lion, very courageous. And you see the way a lion walks. They have a lot of intention in each step. And Kapha is like an elephant, right? Big, loyal, grounded, but also very graceful, very gentle as well. So there's that's the beauty about Kapha. And an important thing to remember about both your physical, your mental dosha, whether it's Vata, Pitta or Kapha. Whatever it is that embrace it. For example, if you are naturally a Kapha physique, don't try to constantly pursue your life's aim of being a certain weight, right? Don't just try, I need to lose weight, I need to lose weight, I need to lose weight. Don't try and lose weight to fit some societal ideal. You should be healthy and happy in your body weight. Athena's asking, is it possible to have pitta digestion in eating almost anything, strong hunger and strong thirst, but very sensitive digestion, can't lie down after? It would probably be a vata pitta digestion, not an imbalance in pitta. Yeah, or it could be too much pitta in the digestive system as well. But kapha is, so yes, embrace your physical and your mental, your natural doshic constitution. Don't try to be something else that you're not. One of my mentors always used to give the example, I know it's very mundane and materialistic, but of Oprah Winfrey. You know, when she was much younger in her like prime, she would try all of these different diets. Yeah, she'd lose weight for a while, but then she would just go back to her like curvy self. But when she just stopped and was like, okay, this is who I am, she'd be much healthier and happier in that, in her natural sort of curvaceous, voluptuous physique. So it's really important to do that. The last question that someone asked, I'll address it at the end because it might just digress a little bit from pitta. So kapha has all those things to do with structure in the body. In the body, where is it located? In many different places. The different sites of kapha is the upper 2/3 of the stomach, the pericardium, lungs, where there you see a lot of mucus. Sort of, you know, this part of your body is quite kapha. So think of all of those qualities of kapha and then where it's going to be present in the body. Behaviorally, emotionally, kapha people are very grounded. They're the types of people, like a vata can get anxious really easily. They're very sensitive and their feathers can get ruffled very easily. But a kapha person, they're quite like strong in terms of it takes a lot to upset them or to ruffle their feathers. They're very grounded, they're very loyal. Kapha people may not have very many friends, but the few friends they have, they're friends for life, right? They're strong friends. Very forgiving, compassionate. I always say a kapha is like a grandmother's hug, right? You know, you have what is it? Stereotypical grandmother, like a large lady, always cooking, always feeding her grandchildren, whatever. That's kapha. Someone who always wants to feed others, the host. In terms of their career, they tend to be like the healers of society. They like to listen to people, nurture, and just, you know, the teachers, the nurses, they're quite kind of kapha professions if you have to ascribe a certain dosha to a profession. When they're imbalanced, too much of that heavy energy can lead to things like depression, can lead to a lot of stagnancy in your life. You don't like to change. You just like doing the same thing over and over again. Very foggy-headed, lethargic, lazy. All of these are signs of too much kapha in the body. Excess weight gain. Anyway, it's easy for kaphas to weight gain, but you have a kapha imbalance, it's even easier for you to weight gain. Excess congestion in the body, lots of mucus, things like that, that is a sign of excess kapha. So what do you do to balance it out? You do the opposite. Don't eat heavy foods. Don't eat cold foods. Don't have cold milk. Don't have cold cheeses, yogurt, things like that. Have lighter foods. Instead of having lots of carbs and cheese and potatoes and things like that, choose lighter grains, quinoa and buckwheat. Lighter vegetables, zucchini, green beans, carrot, things like that. Oily, sweet, right? Kaphas, they tend to, even though they shouldn't have lots of sweet, they're the people that want to eat sweet all of the time. One thing that I will say is if you find yourself craving sweet too much, now there's a healthy craving of sweet. We all need sweetness in our life, correct? We all need a little bit of sweet during the day or, you know, a couple of times a week. That's not unhealthy. But if you're craving it multiple times of the day, sweetness is also an emotion. So maybe you're fulfilling that sweetness through food, but try to see, am I missing out on sweetness in life? I know Krishna consciousness is the ultimate sweetness, of course, but sometimes because of our conditioned nature, we don't see that. So look to other areas of your life and see, where can I add sweetness in? You know, is there a particular relationship I can revive? Is it doing something just because I like to do it, right? You know, maybe I used to paint 20 years ago and I don't do it now. Revive that old hobby. Did I used to dance, sing, whatever it is? If you find yourself craving a particular food in an excessive amount, again, you know, each food has different emotions associated with it. It's very, Ayurveda is a massive topic. You know, Ayurvedic food and nutrition can be a whole nother webinar or seminar, but I'll again try and send you the links to it. But see, especially for sweet, as women, I know for me, there's certain times that I'll just really binge on sweet things. So just stop for a second and see where I can get it from something else in life. So we already ascribed pitta to the middle of your life, vata to the end of your life. That means kapha is in the beginning of your life. So children are in a kapha phase of life. They're constantly growing. They're constantly being nourished. They're constantly being lubricated. And that's why you will see that it's very common for children, like Govinda Priya Prabhu said, that middle age is when you get those pitta symptoms. Childhood is when you get those kapha aggravations. A lot of mucus, a lot of runny noses, a lot of childhood asthma, congestion in the lungs. So it's very easy for that heightened kapha to tip out of balance. So at that time, don't give them one little thing for mothers out there with children, or actually anyone. If you have signs of a runny nose, cold, cough, excess mucus in the body, immediately stop bananas, avocado, and dairy products, especially cheese, yogurt, and ice cream, right? Now, this sounds a little bit gross, but if you were to put mucus in one bowl, and if you were to put avocados or bananas or yogurt or cream cheese in another bowl, and you closed your eyes, they would kind of feel the same, correct? So if you eat foods, I know people are like screwing up their faces. Don't worry, I'm the same. If you eat foods that are mucousy, your mucus is going to increase. So don't eat those foods. Cut out those foods. Start having more black pepper, more ginger, more turmeric, more honey. All of these things will help break up that excess mucus in the body. Yeah? In the season, winter is a very kapha season. Cold, heavy. You know, it's very easy to feel more depressed in winter because of the gray skies, because of the lack of sunlight. So really make sure that you have a strong winter routine to keep you upbeat. That's why we painted this wall in our house yellow. England is very gray all of the time. I come from Australia, which is sunny. I don't want to be miserable all the time. So we said, let's have brightness around you. Surround yourself with color. Don't wear black, right? Have color. Krishna consciousness is full of color. Have your favorite deities and their most colorful outfit as a picture, and see that every day in winter time to really help shake you out of that heaviness and lethargy. I see a few questions. Which oils should be used based on different doshas, and whom are we when we are craving for salty food? Okay, I'm going to go through the emotions and the foods probably at the end. Oils on different doshas. So if we're talking oil application for the body, sesame oil is a good oil for everyone to use. If you are very hot, like a pitta body, and it's summertime, it's super duper hot as well, coconut oil is nice and cooling. If you are quite cold, like a vata, and you need, even kaphas can be quite cold, and you need like an oil to warm you up, either sesame oil, or you can even use mustard oil, or you can do a mix of sesame and mustard. But cold pressed sesame oil is a safe oil for everyone to use, regardless of dosha.
Almond oil?
Almond oil is also good. So now, a lot of these things, it's important to see when people ask me, is that Ayurvedic? If you go back to the Ayurvedic texts, they probably won't talk about almond oil. They won't talk about chia seeds. They won't talk about quinoa, because those foods didn't exist in India at that time. The Ashtanga Hridaya, the Ashtanga Sangraha, Charaka Samhita, they will talk about foods and practices that were prevalent in India at that time. What people have done is they have then taken the common foods that are available to us all over the world now in terms of grains, pulses, spices, sweeteners, etc., and then kind of categorized them and figured out their Ayurvedic properties. So yeah, almond oil is quite sweet and yeah, cooling to the body as well. Let's see a few more questions. Which oil for kapha? I would go either sesame or maybe even mustard for kapha. Can I explain how we should drink water according to Ayurveda? Okay, wonderful. Very good question. I asked the same question to my Ayurvedic teacher in India. I said, you know, because I had just finished nutrition and you're told you need to eat 3 meals a day, you need to eat this much, you need to drink 2 liters of water a day. And I said, what does Ayurveda say according to that? And he made it so super duper simple. He said, eat when you are hungry, right? Drink when you are thirsty. There's no mention of drinking 2 liters of water a day. Drink according to your thirst. And you may have heard signs of like good hydration in the body is when you urinate, your urine comes out clear. So every time you go to the bathroom, make sure your urine comes out clear. If it's coming out quite yellow, then it's a sign that you need to drink a little bit more water. But drink according to your thirst, eat according to your hunger. Eat according to your hunger is a really big thing because we have been brought up to eat because of particular times, because of particular reasons. I always say babies are actually the healthiest humans, right? When babies need to eat, they will let us know, they will cry. When babies need to sleep, they will cry and they will go to sleep, hopefully. When they need to pee, when they need to poo, they just do it. They don't wait for anyone. But as we grow up, we corrupt those bodies, our body's natural intuition, and we eat because it's a meal time. Oh, it's 12:30, I should eat my lunch. Or it's 8:30 in the morning, I should have breakfast. Or it's 6 o'clock, I should have dinner in the evening. We don't eat because our hunger or appetite calls for it. We might eat, I mean, now we're in lockdown, everyone's at, I mean, in England, people are at home most of the time, but otherwise, if you're working in a corporate office, maybe you don't eat because you want to get home earlier, right? And you're suppressing your appetite and you're not listening to it in the hopes of getting home earlier. Maybe you quickly, you know, eating on the run. or you're eating, this is something that I do. I eat because an amazing plate of prasadam is in front of me, right? My sister always used to say, eyes bigger than your stomach. I just pile on, it's an amazing feast at the temple, big festival, and you pile on all of this prasadam, knowing that you can't actually eat it because your eyes are bigger than your stomach. So eat because your hunger, your digestion actually calls for it, not because any of those other reasons, right? A lot of times I will ask my clients, do you feel hungry? And they have to scratch their head and think, do I actually feel hungry? For some people, they do. Some people have a very, again, each of the three doshas will have different hungers, different appetites. For a kapha person, they can easily go with 2 meals in the day, like a late breakfast and a late lunch. And that's good for them. That will keep them going. For a vata person, they might need 5 small meals throughout the day because they have that variable, they have that erratic digestion. For a pitta person, they need to eat 3 square timely meals because they have a very strong digestion and appetite, right? They invented the word hangry, which is a combination of hungry and angry. Someone who is a pitta digestion, when they are hungry, feed them, don't talk to them, right? So same way, according to hunger and thirst, drink and eat according to what your body is saying, what those processes are saying in your body. Let me see if there's any other questions. So we don't need to follow a quantity of meal. No. Eat according to your hunger and eat according to how much satisfies you. You know that a meal, you have eaten enough because after the meal, you feel energetic, you feel satisfied, you feel you have like a clear mind. If you eat too much, which happens to me, unfortunately, many times, you feel foggy headed, you feel lethargic. You need LSD, you need left side down. You shouldn't need left side down after a meal. You should be ready to go for your day. And you don't feel bloated or, acidic or anything like that. So that they are signs of good digestion and appetite and hunger. Any questions so far on Vata, Pitta or Kapha? Like I said, we just kind of briefly went over them. Nothing at the moment? No? Okay. I'm going to go on. So intermittent fasting is not recommended. And what if a day before you ate a lot and your stomach is expanded? Doesn't that lead to bigger the hungry the next day because the stomach is stretched? Intermittent fasting, also a good question. Different people take well to different types of fasting. Vatas don't do well with fasting, right? It really affects their digestion. Not just their digestion, it affects their overall functioning. Even pittas, maybe they can do a little bit of intermittent fasting, but they still need to eat a little bit of something. Same kaphas, they can do intermittent fasting fine. And this is something also I wanted to bring up, even from a spiritual point. We have a lot of days that are filled with certain types of fasting. I'm no spiritual authority to say you should fast or you shouldn't fast, but I also urge you to don't fast to the detriment of your health. We fast because we should devote more time to hearing and chanting. There have been a few Janmashtamis where I didn't fast and I ate Ekadashi Prasadam because if I didn't eat, I would be hungry, I would be tired, and I would have a headache, and I couldn't do my service for that day. So if that's impeding you in your service and sadhana, this is again just from my personal viewpoint. I don't think it's the best idea to fast in those circumstances. I know sometimes we like to take on a really like tapasvi nature and perform a lot of austerity, but look at how that's affecting your service and your sadhana. It may mean that you just eat prasadam and that day, eat very simply, nothing elaborate, and chant some extra rounds, do some extra service, or read a little bit extra. The dinacharya for each dosha is different. I see some rituals, but looks tridosha like oil pulling, for example. No, Dinacharya tends to be quite good. Dinacharya is the daily routine according to Ayurveda. So a lot of things we might naturally know of in the morning when we do, like you wake up, you it involves cleansing your five senses. So there will be brushing your teeth, cleaning, scraping your tongue to awaken your oral cavity. It might have the nasya nose oil drops to cleanse your nasal cavity, ear drops to clean your ears, self massage to sort of get your skin going, your lymphatics going, a shower, exercise, breakfast. These are all some of the elements of Dinacharya. And it's a very three doshik, so something that is good for all doshas, you know, sort of throughout the day. Yeah.
So
I said children are kapha body. Does it something to do with autism and children? Is there Dinacharya or food? Okay, this is. I have to do a little bit, I'll be honest, I have to do a little bit more research about autism. And I also wanted to mention, I gave this class at the beginning of the year, some elements of it. And when I mentioned how your prakriti or your natural dosha is determined a lot by a mother in her pregnancy, a mother came up to me at the end of the class. It was filled with mainly women. And she said, my child has, I think they had autism and many other developmental disabilities and physical disabilities. And she started to feel that it was her fault. It's not your fault as a mother during your pregnancy that your child turned out this way. This is something that was shared to me by a senior. She's a god sister of mine, but she's much older than me. She's, I think, almost 70. She has 5 children of her own. And she told me this, I don't have any children of my own, but she told me that as a parent, you have to understand that children have their own karma. And I can say this to you because I don't have a child, and I'm saying it from, I guess, a very objective viewpoint. So I can't empathize with all you mothers out there, but understand that your child has their own karma, and you can give your child the best of everything. You can give them the best beginnings of life, physically, materially, spiritually, everything, but they will live out what is in their karma. And as a mother, it's the hardest thing to do, to completely step away from it and not be attached. But she said one really nice thing to me. She said, as a mother, you hold one hand to your child and you hold your other hand to Krishna. So whatever your child does in life, whether they join a band and start to play in pubs, or whether they become a famous dancer, you support your child through all of their endeavors, but you also let your child know that your one hand is holding Krishna. So through you, your child is connected to Krishna. And I look up to this, I call her a godmother, my fairy godmother in many ways, because she has 5 children who have all had colorful lives, but she's still very strong in her sadhana. So I just wanted to share that if you have children who have any developmental disabilities or difficulties, don't take it as this is something that you did. Understand that this is part of their karma, part of your karma to be their parent in this world. So hopefully, yeah, I can't answer too much on the autism part because I don't have so much insight into it. But hopefully this helped. Yeah. Any other questions so far on the 3 doshas before we kind of go into specific?
Thank you so much, Kishori Sindhu Prabhu. This was really, really wonderful. I really appreciated your deep insights and, you know, the connectivity to Krishna consciousness. This is so valuable. Thank you so much. I have another question, and if others have questions, feel free to unmute yourself at this point. I mean, let's take turns and you can unmute and speak. So, you know, we hear so much about smoothies, and I've been studying Ayurveda myself a little bit. And I've read that, you know, combination of fruits and vegetables together is a big no-no. Ayurveda, but that's what's being promoted is healthy. You know, you see mango, spinach smoothies and all kinds of smoothies. What is your insight into such?
My insight is Ayurveda's insight. It's correct. There are certain food combinations that are incompatible. And the reason that they're incompatible, something that I didn't mention before, is one of the main principles of Ayurveda. I'll say this like every second line, I'll say this is the main principle of Ayurveda, but is digestion. So everything is seen according to digestibility of how easy is it to digest. When you mix different foods with different properties and qualities, it makes for a very indigestible environment inside the stomach. A clear example with fruits and anything else, right? You eat a piece of fruit on its own, how quickly do you digest it?
Easily.
Half hour, 45 minutes later, you feel hungry again, right? When you mix a fruit with other things inside your stomach, what happens is the fruit's already been digested, but those other foods haven't yet. So while that other food is being digested, the fruit is sitting there and it's starting to ferment. And it can cause quite an acidic environment, cause you bloating, uncomfortable feeling in the body. Now, I also understand if you've been having a smoothie or a milkshake for years, your body can also adapt to these things, right? One of the other big no-nos in Ayurveda is don't have too many nightshades, don't have too many tomatoes. If I went to Italy and I told them don't have tomatoes, they'd all kick me out, right? They have it every day on a daily basis. So one of my teachers, he told me that their bodies have evolved to break down tomatoes. And probably if you looked at how they were cooked, 50, 100 years ago, it was probably a healthy and easy way to break down those tomatoes and their bodies could handle it. So, but, you'll find many principles of Ayurveda are being promoted and popularized, and don't let it overwhelm you. What I suggest is what you can apply in your life slowly and easily without much effort, start doing that now. Don't think, oh my God, I can't eat fruits and this together. Oh my God, I shouldn't eat this dry foods. Oh my God, I shouldn't eat spicy foods. Don't think of it like all of those do's and don'ts. Just pick one thing and focus on that. So definitely, for example, beans and cheese is another no-no combination. But I know in America, Mexican food is huge. And what is Mexican food? Beans and cheese, right? So pick and choose your battles. See what works for you, what doesn't work for you. If beans and cheese is something that you have once in 2 weeks or once in 3 weeks, maybe it's okay for your body to break it down that one time. And after your heavy meal, you have, a nice ginger tea in the evening to help break it down, to aid digestion. You have trifla in the evening. You eat a light meal, Another thing about, actually I'll get into it in the next part as well. But hopefully that answered your question about mixing foods together.
Thank you. We have a couple questions coming in. I see Athena has her hand raised. So go ahead, Athena, and then we have a couple more.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being so available. Your general energy is just always so helpful, and thanks for just addressing all our questions. I apologize. I actually have a couple of questions. I'm curious to hear sometimes you see in the Asian, like Eastern philosophy is very similar to Ayurveda, but they have the principle of having no cold foods, and it just isn't good for your digestion. And I'm curious if Ayurveda also subscribes to that. If that's generally a good rule of thumb, that cold foods, just even for pittas, is not very good, and just cold, anything cold is just not good for the body or digestion. That's my question number one, if you could address that.
Okay, so cold is definitely not good for the digestion. You imagine washing dishes. What's easier to wash dishes with, cold water or hot water?
Hot water, yes.
Okay, so same thing inside our bodies. To cleanse out the system, to detox your system, better to drink hot water than cold water. Better to eat warm foods, hot foods, which are easily digestible, because everything goes back to digestion, right? Your body temperature is about 37.5. If you put cold things in it, your body has to work harder. Same things with hot food and cold food. But in the same sense, if it is a super hot day, if it's a 40-degree-Celsius day, I'm going to eat an ice cream, right? 5,000 years ago, they probably didn't have ice cream. So they didn't have to worry about those things. We do have to worry about these things because I have ice cream in my freezer right now, right? But for me, this is my personal philosophy. I am not a purist in Ayurveda. I don't follow 100% Ayurvedic diet every single day because I'm also guided by my tongue, and there's so much convenience around us all of the day. We have to be practical. If I was to live a completely Ayurvedic life, I would be somewhere in the middle of nowhere, growing my fruits, growing my vegetables, milking my cow, growing my grain, growing my rice, but I'm not, right? I go to the supermarket. I have to rely on convenience. So with warm foods and cold foods, I would generally say try to go as much as you can with warm foods. If it's an exceptionally hot day, have a cold ice cream. And with pittas, look at the property of the food. For example, you can get cooling spices and warming spices. So favor cooling spices. They'll cool you internally. It doesn't necessarily have to be a cold temperature-wise.
Got it. Thank you. And then my next question is the food combination, and you hear that all the time. Eat fruit by itself. Never combine it with anything else. But when you look today where juices and smoothies are popular, it's already grinded down. You'll have like a kale pineapple, or it's, kale spinach and apple, and all of that is already mixed. Now, does that not hold anymore because everything's ground down to juice, so you can combine all of this? Or it's something within the property of fruit, other than the fact that it's faster digest, but everything's already broken down to juice or just so little that you can combine all of it, or you still cannot eat fruit with kale and spinach, even though it's all ground up already and juiced.
Ground up does make it easier to digest, but there also are certain properties within the foods that make it difficult. And there are also lesser of two evils. Like, I would say having a kale pineapple smoothie is probably better than having a pineapple yogurt smoothie, right? Because quality wise, kale and pineapple are kind of easier to digest than pineapple and yogurt, which is a lot heavier. Someone asked, can we combine all fruits, like a fruit salad, for example? Again, I want you to take this as a practical. So look at the principle of good, better, and best, right? Best would be have fruits of different, similar natures together, like have berries together, strawberries, blueberries, blackberries, raspberries, like that. Have citrusy fruit together, oranges, mandarins, apples and pears together. Try not to mix fruits of different natures together. But, if your body can handle it, it's okay. You're not going to suffer big time from having berries with oranges. So be practical. But yes, technically speaking, fruits of a similar nature should stay together. I'm just going to move on. Just a few other people have questions. So just so I can take questions from everyone. Combining different types of veggies in the same cooking pot, good or not? Again, vegetables. See, one of my friends actually on Instagram, she posted up something really nice. Sometimes we're in this mindset of trying to make everything healthy. So she was looking at it in context of, she was making a half wheat and half ragi roti, right? So she combined the two flours. And then she thought to herself, her ancestors probably just had either wheat or either ragi. They didn't mix the two. But in our mind, to make everything super duper healthy, it's like, okay, let me try and shove as many vegetables in this pasta. Let me try and put all 10 different types of seeds in the bread that I'm making in an aim to make it healthy. But what we sometimes forget to remember is if you mix too many different things, it again makes it difficult to digest in the body. So in terms of different types of veggies in the same cooking pot, don't add 10 different vegetables. Maybe 2 to 3 different vegetables are fine. Some vegetables go better together than others. But even when we're trying to make things super duper healthy and superfoods, look at it in terms of how your body can digest it. Someone's asking, autoimmune diseases seem to be on the rise the more we advance in our consciousness as a society. Some are difficult to diagnose and many can be classed as a mystery illness by Western doctors. What does Ayurveda say on the topic of autoimmune conditions? So some certain autoimmune conditions will have Ayurvedic names, like for example, rheumatoid arthritis is called Amavata in Ayurveda. It's a combination of too much toxicity and air in the body. Other autoimmune conditions, they won't necessarily have specific names within Ayurveda. And you're right in terms of many are classified as a mystery illness by Western doctors. For example, irritable bowel syndrome, IBS. Every second person has IBS. And if you Google what IBS is, it's alternating constipation or diarrhea. So they can't even make up their mind to decide if it's constipation or diarrhea. Both of those are two complete different ends of the spectrum. Basically, it's an impairment in your digestion, and it's something that you need to correct then. So I don't know if I'm answering your question on Ayurveda on the topic of autoimmune conditions. Even things like the pandemic, I've heard different, in Ayurveda, I think it's called Janapata Dhwamsa Vyadhis. I can't remember, but it's an invasion of a foreign organism. It was kind of talked about in Ayurveda. And one really nice Ayurvedic doctor, he said that it happens because we're not honoring, like it's because of a result of our karmas on this earth. He's not a devotee, but they have their own sort of spiritual philosophies. Within Ayurveda, they're proponents of the Sankhya philosophy. But it's completely true. We've disrespected Mother Bhumi, and she's paying it back to us. And that's why something like this has come about. So Ayurveda definitely did speak about these things, maybe not in the exact words that we know. What could someone that has a bad or slow digestion do to improve it? So if you have a sluggish digestion, maybe you have slow moving bowels, you have low appetite, don't feel hungry, just generally sluggish, things take a long time to break down. Something as simple as ginger with a bit of salt and lime, fresh ginger with a bit of salt and lime, eat it 10 to 20 minutes before a meal, and that will help increase your Agni, increase your digestion. Yes. Any other questions so far?
Yes, Athena, you have your hand raised. Go ahead.
Yes, I'm sorry. I always have lots of questions. I apologize. My other question
you
is,
have a pitta mind.
I do have. I'm very pitta for sure. Well, as a devotee, of course, we're vegetarian. And then when we preach to those who are not devotees, but we maybe try to help them say, turn to a little bit more of a vegetarian lifestyle, I tend to also point to this documentary called Game Changers. I'm not sure if you had heard of it, but it basically is saying that humans as a species were not, in one sense, meant to eat meat, from our teeth and the length of our digestions and so many reasons. But then you get a lot of pushback saying, I've digested meat completely fine. No problems with digestion. If we weren't meant to eat meat, then how can I digest it? And I think about your answer of the, you didn't mention, did you say homeostasis, but in a sense, we've gotten used to it. Then in one sense, then would you argue that humans could eat meat and were designed to almost be able to eat meat because there are those who have absolutely no problem eating meat and their bodies have absolutely digested it? I would assume no matter what, an elephant cannot eat meat. It just isn't designed to. However, a human has adapted or has been able to eat without many problems, minus the spiritual aspect of it. How do you explain that? Thank you.
So within Ayurveda, there is a whole chapter on meats, right? And Ayurveda will talk about meats of desert animals, salt water, fresh water, like that. You have to understand Ayurveda is, and I have heard before, but don't quote me on this, that sometimes Kshatriyas also used to eat meat. because of their lifestyle, their physique, their stature. They used to eat probably, I guess, whatever they hunted. I see that it's, you know, there's probably an element of adaptation in those people that their digestions can now handle it. It's a tricky one, because if you're following Ayurveda just to heal your body and that's it, you might focus on the meat part. But if you're following Ayurveda to heal your body for a higher purpose, which all of us here on this call are, for spiritual purposes, to elevate our consciousness, then you would give up that meat, because, you know, you want to follow a sattvic way of life, clean consciousness and things like that. When it comes to devotees, this is a side point. This is like a side point, not really Ayurveda, but I don't really focus on become a vegetarian. You just preach to them about the other aspects of Krishna consciousness, and naturally over time, they will do it themselves. When someone comes in new and you tell them that, like, oh, you have to like give up meat, they're not very, you know, for me, it would like kind of put me off a bit. Like, you're just coming in and telling me what I can't do. What about the things that I can do? So this is what I was always taught, that when someone comes in, don't tell them first about, okay, you have to be vegetarian. You know, if they're eating meat, that let them eat meat. Let them chant Hare Krishna and eat meat, that's fine. And then over time, over purification, they will realize that actually this is not the best for me in my life. So hopefully that helps. Oh, we have an Ayurvedic doctor on the call. She should have given the talk. Regarding eating cold food, I can explain that according to Ayurveda, it's all about digestive fire element, one out of the Panchamahabhut. So if you put cold water on fire, then the fire will go down. Same way cold food will reduce digestive fire, which can cause ama, which is toxins. Yeah, so cold food is basically, your digestion is a fire, and you have cold food and you're just dousing out that fire. So I wanted to speak a little bit on digestion and how important it is. Like Sonal Prabhu kindly mentioned, that it's like a fire. Your digestion moves in strength with the sun, correct? So when you wake up, the sun is just waking up, your digestion is just waking up. For a fire that is just about to start, we don't douse it out with massive pieces of log. We put little dry twigs, little kindling, little sticks, and things like that. In the same way, when your digestion is just waking up, don't overload it with a massive meal for breakfast. My dad told me that eat breakfast like a king. But my dad was unfortunately wrong, right? Breakfast should be a small and a light meal. Lunch should be your biggest meal of the day. Because if your digestion moves in strength with the sun, when is the sun at its peak? Noon, correct? That's when you should use nature's heightened cycle to your advantage and have your biggest meal of the day at lunchtime and have your smallest, a lighter meal in the evening. So I'm going to share my screen because the next bit I had to share was like the Ayurvedic day. Okay, so we did kapha. So like different doshas are heightened at different times of your life, at different particular seasons of the year, different doshas are heightened at different times during the day. So in front of you, you have a really beautiful picture of a clock, right? And it's divided 10 to 6. You've got 3 portions to it. So if we start at the 2 and we go to the 6, and we start 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., which is known as the Vata time. So that is when Vata energy is heightened, right? 2 a.m. to 6 a.m., you're dreaming, you're beginning to wake up, you're eliminating your bowel movements and you're starting to meditate. You're doing all of these activities. So especially elimination If you can empty your bowels before 6 a.m. in the morning, you're actually using that natural vata, that natural energy of movement, which is present at that time, to your advantage. And it becomes easier to move your bowels. Now, I'm not going to say you wake up tomorrow morning and you go at 5:30 and it's like, whew, easy peasy. It won't happen overnight. It might take, a few weeks, a few months to put into practice. But these are small tweaks that you can make in your lifestyle to using the principles of Ayurveda to your advantage and helping. So trying to eliminate before 6 a.m. Then you get that time period come again from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. in the evening, right? And that's when you should be using that heightened vata energy to create, to exercise, because that movement energy is already heightened. Make a task list for the next day, right? So you can get ready. So then we go back to our clock, and then you go, so we've woken up 2 a.m. No, we haven't woken up 2 a.m., but between 2 and 6, you've woken up. 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. is the kapha time period, right? So kapha is that heavy energy. Your digestion is still slow. So therefore, help out your digestion by having a light breakfast. Don't work against nature. You've got a particular task list that you set out the night before, follow that task list, right? Kaphas are really good with routine. You use that vata time the night before, that creative time to make your list. Now use that kapha time the next day to do your list, right? One thing that I also like to think of is kapha is a very heavy energy. And sometimes if you just sit there and be almost engulfed by that heavy energy, it's easier for you to get in aggravate that kapha, to get kapha imbalanced. So sometimes you can oppose that by doing a little bit of activity to break out that kapha funk in between that 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. time. Maybe go for a light walk or something like that. Same time, it comes back in the evening, 6 p.m. to 10 p.m., having a light dinner. Time with family, relaxing. Use that natural kapha, slowness, peacefulness, calmness to your advantage. Try to get into bed and sleep before 10 p.m. because you're using that slow energy to your advantage, because it's easier to sleep when you're peaceful and calm anyway. Go back to the clock, and then you go 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., right? Pitta time. 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., pitta secretions increase in the gastrointestinal tract. That's when you should have a big lunch. Like I was mentioning, noon time, when sun is strong, your digestion is strong, have a big lunch. If you notice during like a working day between 10 and 2, that's when you will do the bulk of your work, right? Whatever type of work you do, whether it's an office job, teaching, whatever, you will do it at that time. Between 10 p.m. to 2 a.m., you're sleeping, I hope, and you're processing food and thoughts from the day. That's when your mental digestion happens. If you've ever noticed that you stay up past 10 p.m., sometimes it is harder to go to sleep after 10 p.m. because you're already in that active, that pitta state. Sometimes you might feel a second hunger wave come along after 10 o'clock because of that active digestion, right? So you can see these small signs and use these particular, arrangement that nature has created to your advantage. And then you'll be able to live a life that's so much healthier, more in harmony with everything around you, and be healthier and happier for it. I see a few questions. Okay, how do we train ourselves to eliminate early? Do we have a better time to have breakfast? Okay, good question, how to train yourself to eliminate early. So with any of these things, like, if you see them eliminate by 6 a.m. the next morning, don't think, okay, tomorrow I got to get up and I've got to do that. Slowly, you can, have some warm water in the morning to stimulate bowel movements. Have some warm ginger tea or something. Have a light dinner the night before. And don't stress in your head that I need to go before 6. I need to go before 6. because sometimes that stress can make you not go, right? Just relax and know that, just keep it in the back of your mind. You know, something that I tell clients often, if they have difficulty going to sleep early, right? You know, maybe they go to sleep 11:30, 12 o'clock. I say, okay, for the next week, I want you to be in bed by 11:30. That's it. Don't set yourself a huge task. And they say, okay. And then the week after, you have to be in bed by 11:15. Okay, it's just 15 minutes earlier. And you move the clock back 15 minutes each week. And in the time of 2 months, you don't even notice, but you're actually going to sleep 2 hours earlier, right? You make the change so small that you don't even notice it in your everyday. Same thing with waking up, same thing with moving your bowels. If you have difficulty waking up early, you know, sometimes we set ourselves such high standards that we think, okay, tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up at 3 a.m., right? And if I'm waking up at 6 a.m. and then to tell me to wake up at 3 a.m., whew, big ask. Instead, I'm going to wake up at 5:45, right, for the next week. Once that becomes a habit, 5:30. Same thing about bowel movements. Bhakti Rasamrita Swami, he once said that, you know, he gave a class here in Crawley about japa, building good japa habits. And he said, those 2 hours of japa is dependent on what you do in the other 22 hours, right? So how are you living your life the other 22 hours? Same thing, you know, they say, what is it? A good day starts the night before. Good bowel movements start the night before, start the day before. What have you been eating? What have you been drinking? What time did you eat? What time did you go to bed? All of these things have an impact. So take into account your diet, what you're drinking and things like that, and how you're living. And remember, that will also impact your bowels. Just because I said it's easier to move your bowels before 6 a.m., that won't make, you know, day and night indifference in how you move your bowels. So hopefully that helps. Let me go back. I think I saw another question. Is it kapha dominated season right now? It depends where you are in the world. If you're in Australia, it is kapha dominated season because it's winter. England and America, I think we're kind of going in from summer to autumn or fall. So it's kind of, your pitta is moving into vata. So kapha season will be more in winter in the US. Athena, you had another question.
Yes, thank you so much. When you mentioned, and we understand that our digestion is directly related to the sun, the strength of the sun. However, there are places in the world, for example, I think it's in Denmark or somewhere in Europe, where they literally have 10 minutes of sun a day. So essentially, do you expect them just not to be hungry much at all during that season? Or do you suggest that they still eat a big lunch, even though it's dark? And similarly, maybe there are people who have some lifestyles, call it doormen, where they work the midnight shift and they sleep during the day. Is it that their lunch, whatever they call the lunch, is still the biggest meal of the day? Or is it, how do you suggest how it's paired? Because we're saying eat lunch is the biggest day, but maybe the sun is down, or maybe there's just no sunlight in where they're living. How does that work? Thank you.
Okay, so if you're living in a cold climate that doesn't have much sun, still have lunch as the biggest meal of the day. If you work night shifts, I remember actually one of my mentors in India, someone came to him, just a local villager with health problems, and they did night shifts, and the first thing he said was, change your shift and then I will help you. So sometimes within Ayurveda, you just have to be hard and say sleep is very, very important. And when you disturb your sleep by working night shifts, which unfortunately sometimes we may have to do for for a job that is unavoidable, do it for as long as you need to, but the minute you can, endeavor to try and change it to a day shift, because it really does impact your health. So apologies to anyone that has a night shift, no offense, but try and change it to a day shift.
Thank you. And as a quick follow-up, when you said those who live in the cold climates that have literally no sunlight, lunch is still the biggest. Is that because the body is still the most awake during the midday that they're up? Is that why?
Yes, and that would be a speculation because, again, Ayurveda was written for people living in India who had very distinct seasons. I'm not saying that it's not applicable to people who have very little sunlight in the Scandinavian countries. It's still applicable, but like Prabhupada said, time, place, and circumstance. You have to look at the time, place, and circumstance for everything. So, you know, maybe it's their bodies have become adapt to having big lunches, and so it's better for them to continue summer or winter like that. You know, staying up past, going to bed before 10 p.m. Like in the peak of summer in England, sometimes it's still daylight at 10 p.m. and it's difficult to go to sleep. And you just have to listen to your body, and you might stay up that little bit later. And it's a lot easier to get up in the summer because the sun rises earlier. In the winter, you don't want to get out of bed because it's still dark outside. Sometimes it is a case of just listening to your body and sleeping that little bit extra. Someone asked before about reheating food. Very good question. Again, this is a principle of good, better, and best. If we were in a perfect world, we wouldn't reheat food. We would have fresh breakfast, fresh lunch, French dinner every single day. Unfortunately, we don't live in a perfect world. And sometimes it is a case that we have to reheat food. Look at what you're reheating. Some things are better suited to being reheated than others. Again, pick and choose your battles. If I always tell people this, I would rather you eat reheated food that you have made than fresh food that someone else that you don't know has made. Because as we know, being devotees, prasadam is not just about food being offered to Krishna, it's also about the consciousness of the cook. And Ayurveda says the same thing. The consciousness of the person that's making the meal has a great impact on how you are going to digest it. So yes, Ayurveda says reheated food, leftover food has less prana in it, less life force in it. But if that means that, if that's the only thing you can do on a practical sense to have a meal, eat the leftover food. Don't feel bad about it. Don't beat yourself up about it. We have to be very practical in today's day and age. Any other questions so far? Oh, is there a reason why we shouldn't eat too many nightshades? The nightshades are considered tridosha krit, which means they aggravate all three doshas. So that's why generally it's recommended not to eat them too much, not to eat them at all. But, you know, I haven't given up tomatoes yet, so I don't expect anyone else to. How old is a leftover food considered old? I would say more than 3 days old, don't eat it. And again, this is a very personal and speculative answer. Someone else might say something different. Yeah, it's very different. It also depends on the food. Like my dad always said, pav bhaji tasted better the next day because all of the flavors have marinated. So, you know, each to their own. Just be practical. I said previously that you don't tell someone whom you have just met not to eat meat. But if you found later on that a person also happened to volunteer to help chop veggies in the temple, what do you say to them? I'm not temple authority to say who can and who can't chop vegetables. You also have to be compassionate to the person. In the beginning, you should be encouraged in Krishna consciousness. This is my personal view, not discouraged. So if I was chopping veggies at a temple and someone says, oh, you can't do that because you eat meat, I probably wouldn't like to come back to the temple again. This is just, again, a very personal note. You know, just just maybe direct them towards another service, the one that's not involved in prashadam, something else. Yeah, be compassionate. So take home point is that we have to know what is good for our body, good for each family member of the family, and then make menu to cook for the family. You make it sound complicated. Ayurveda shouldn't be complicated. Try and try and get each person in your family to listen to their digestion, to be intuitive about what they are eating and how they're experiencing how to eat. You know, when people say, you know, they have family members with different doshas, like some person can't handle spicy food, some person likes spicy food and they need the spice. A simple remedy for the people that need a bit of spice, have pickle on hand, have some pickled ginger. For people that need to have more cooling, always have like a coriander mint chutney, because they are really nice cooling herbs. You know, I understand that you can't make 4 different meals for 4 different family members every single day. Try to make something that kind of appeases everyone. And again, get them to listen to their bodies and see how different foods suit them. But one good way is, yeah, trying to have like different condiments that you've kept in the fridge for a couple of days, and they can kind of add to their meals and, you know, add to their meals as and when they need to. What's the better time to have breakfast, to have each meal? I have listened that we should take breakfast before 9 a.m. Have breakfast when you're hungry. Have lunch when you're hungry. Have dinner when you're hungry. As simple as that. Someone asked what's nightshades. Nightshades are generally known as tomatoes, eggplants, capsicums, and sometimes people consider potatoes nightshades. It's just the family of vegetables that tend to increase inflammation and aggravate the 3 doshas inside the body as well. Any other questions so far? I haven't heard about eliminating around 8 a.m. So unfortunately I won't be able to comment on that. I've heard it's easier to do before 6 a.m.
Right.
That's it from me. I mean, I could go on talking for another 2 hours, but it's coming up 10 p.m. here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu. It was really, really informative and very, very practical. So really grateful. We still have a few minutes. If anyone has any last minute questions or you want to express your gratitude, feel free to unmute yourself.
Or if there's something that you learned from here that you would like to like apply and take on, type it away or tell it. Yeah, it would be really good to know as well.
Sure, Sonal Prabhu, you can unmute yourself.
Thank you so much. I think the way you presented was really good and very easy to understand for the people as well. And I joined just because I like to increase my knowledge and share as well. So it was really nice. Thank you so much.
That's real. I'm honored coming from an Ayurvedic doctor. Thank you very much.
You are welcome. Thank you.
So, Keshari Sindhu Prabhu, would you be sharing this PowerPoint with us?
I can. How should I do it? Should I send it to you?
Yeah, you can. I don't know if you have my email, but do you have Vaishnavi? I'll connect with you.
Okay, I can send you the PowerPoint.
Sure, and we'll share that in our resources. Would you like to tell us about your page on Instagram?
Yes, I will do a shameless plug of my Instagram and Facebook page. It's under my non-initiated name, Neeti Sheth, which I'm going to type in the chat box. Oops. You can find me on Instagram at, one second. And on Facebook as, I don't even know what it is. I think it's Niti Shet Ayurveda. Yeah, I try my best to post daily. I haven't been doing it because we've moved house recently. Tips about Ayurveda and trying to make it as practical as possible, as less overwhelming as possible. I do online consultations if anybody is interested. Again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know everything. And if I don't know everything, I will tell you and be completely upfront. Yes, that's a little bit about me.
Right.
So yeah, please go and follow me on Instagram and Facebook at the risk of sounding like self-promoting.
No, it's absolutely fine. We want to support Vaishnavi practitioners, and you know, Vaishnavis are seeking this information, so why not? So please go ahead and check out. If you find something valuable, go ahead and share with your friends. Similarly, at the Vaishnavi Ministry, we are trying our best to offer everything that we can practically think about in this 2020 age for women. We have upcoming, I think we have Ramburu Prabhu scheduled, and she's going to be speaking a lot about mental health. Tiffany, do we have a date already? I'm so grateful to Tiffany.
Hare Krishna, yes. Ramburu will be here the second Saturday of September. So it's our next, was it the 10th? I'm so sorry. I don't remember the date offhand. But she will be at our next Sangha. Yeah.
And then we have Tiffany, who is a yoga practitioner. And then we have Carly, who is a yoga practitioner. And they've become an integral part of the Vaishnavi Ministry team. They are going to be, we're going to be having yoga classes every alternate Sunday. So look out for that information on our next newsletter, and invite more Vaishnavis. So thank you so much, everyone. And Keshori Sindhu Prabhu will connect with you. Yes.
I just wanted to leave you one thought. If you're a mother, or I know we dedicate a lot of lives to, a lot of your life you would have dedicated to looking after your children. What I encourage you to do is, while you have your children that are young, please also pursue something that fulfills you, because at one point in time, those children will grow up and they will go, and it will just be you and your spouse, or just you, or whatever the situation is. And it'll be very difficult at that time. This is just something from personal that I've seen my mom go through. Do something for yourself. Don't just spend your whole life. I know it's easy for me to say this because I don't have children, but do something that fulfills you, because when those children are up and gone, the house will be very empty. So, and it will be very difficult for you to get on and just keep doing things again. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to echo that. And I can say that because I have children. So please take the time to use whatever resources we have over here and other places. There's so many activities happening for Vaishnavis. So please take advantage of that. And like Kishore Sindhu Prabhu said, find something that you like, engage your mind, eat healthy, take care of yourself, make that integral part of your lifestyle. So thank you so much. And look out for the feedback form that we send after every session. We really read everything that you write. We've made changes based on your feedback. So be honest. If you want to keep it anonymous, that's fine. I personally do read all the feedback, even though my team gets everything. I do take the time to read, and we try to implement the changes. So thank you again. Thank you very much. And Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha.
वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय श्री प्रभुपाद
Thank you so much again, Kishore Sindhu Prabhu.
Thank you very much, Govinda Prabhu, and everyone for listening and asking so many questions. Appreciate it. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण thank you गोविंद जी thank you किशोरी सिंधु माता जी
Hare Krishna.
Receive
So
the
much.
feedback emails.
follow you on Instagram and Facebook. You reach out. Thank you so much.
Athena, you know those feedback forms are sent via Wix. So are you still there? Or did she drop off?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. So, you know, always look out in your promotions. Sometimes when we use the website, send out emails, they end up in the promotion section or spam. So make sure you add Vaishnavi Ministry NA to your contact list. But usually we have these go out, either it's sent through Wix or we use MailChimp. So both of them, they probably end up in your promotions or spam. So look out, usually they go out on Tuesday of, you know, after the session. So
Thank you.
if you don't, in case you don't receive it, I'm going to put my email right here for you. Reach out to me directly and I'll make sure that you receive. It's very important for us to hear what you have to say and hear what everyone else has to say for that matter.
Thank you so much. And sorry, if through MailChimp and Wix, is it called Vaishnava Ministry? Is that where it's being sent?
We have a combined, we do Vaishnavi Ministry North America or Vaishnavi Retreats. So it will show up either way.
Okay, thank you.
So that's my personal email. And then we have the Vaishnavi Ministry email, which is mostly by the team. And I do look into that off and on, but if you need to reach me personally, you can directly contact me over there. So yes, please take a few minutes to fill out that feedback form. It's really helpful. That's it. Thank you so much again. Hare Krishna.
So much, Hare Krishna. This was wonderful. Thank you so much for all your service.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.